My name is Tree, and I'm going to tell you the story of my journey and how I discovered a magical world. But first, we're going to have to start from the beginning. There was once a girl who was very lost. She didn't know where to go or where to turn, and she just wanted to be good and do the right thing. She did what she was supposed to do. She went to college and got good grades. She followed all the rules. And then one day, she saw a vision. It showed what her life would look like in the future. She was in her 40s, married to the same man she was dating. They had a big house and successful careers. And she was absolutely, completely depressed. Lifeless, with zero hope of a way out. So she decided to do something really crazy. She quit her job, ended the relationship, gave away everything she owned, and bought a one-way ticket to the Philippines. She jumped into the unknown with no plan. That was the day that the old me died and the new Tree was born. I didn't know what was next, but I knew that I couldn't turn back. I decided to trust that the universe had a plan for me. And there was something new. While meditating, I had received a vision. I saw a boy walking towards me. He had long, dark, curly hair, was shy and more beautiful than any man I had ever seen. And I thought, maybe I'll meet him on my journey. So I set out to find him. I started following the voice inside of me. It guided me all over the world. And when I ended up in Singapore, I met a man who did past life regressions. I didn't know what to expect, but the idea excited me, so I gave it a go. What I discovered surprised me. I found out that in my life prior to this one, I was a fairy. When the memory came flooding in, it was so vivid and visceral it couldn't be denied. My life there was nothing like anything I had ever experienced as a human. We lived on Earth, but on a higher dimensional plane. Time moved differently there. As fairies, we didn't have to die. We lived for thousands and thousands of years. We were the guardians of Earth, taking care of nature and keeping the balance. My job was to sing to the flowers and channel higher dimensional frequencies onto Earth. We lived in tree houses, sang, danced, and played in the forest. And my husband was the same boy from the vision. I re-experienced us meeting for the first time in that life. It was at a celebration in the forest. When my eyes met his, nothing was said, but we both knew, and we both remembered each other. As I stared into his eyes, it was like everything else disappeared, and we were dancing in the forest alone. We lived a blissfully long and happy life together, and when it was time to die, it didn't happen a natural way. We chose it. I had received a call to come help in the human world. Of course, my husband didn't want to go, and he was very upset about this. And for good reason. The humans had fallen into a state of such separation that they had forgotten who they truly are. And furthermore, we would have to separate, with no guarantee if we would ever find each other again. After the past life regression, what followed challenged me. I had experienced so much bliss, a world that was so vibrant and vivid. It made coming back into this one as a human feel like a 1950s black and white television screen. It was hard to integrate back into a normal life. And I didn't know where the boy from the vision was, or how to find him. But I knew there had to be some reason I was shown these memories. So I kept following the voice in my heart. It took me on adventure after adventure. I discovered who I truly was, and I learned to surrender and flow with the universe. I learned that my greatest gifts were hidden beneath my fears, and that the unknown was really the only place that I was truly safe. All along, what I was looking for was inside of me. So I stopped looking and I started living. Who knew that life could become so easy? I met an old wizard who helped me to trust the voice inside of me and believe in my most magical self. I didn't find the boy, but I found something better, my voice. I began to sing and write poetry. I bought a guitar and learned to play. And I met a hummingbird who taught me how to sing. After spending a week meditating in Peru, I received a new vision. I saw me with the same boy from the fairy lifetime in Los Angeles. And he was my husband. And for the first time, I had a reason to return home. So I began my journey north. When I got to Panama, I started to have doubts. How could I leave traveling and everything I loved for someone I didn't even know was real or not? I felt deep into my heart and asked what to do. I heard a voice say, "Get a direct flight and go straight to Guatemala. This will be your last stop, and then you'll go home." I surrendered one last time and followed what I was told to do. On the way there, I was scribbling some notes in my journal, and the words to a poem started to write themselves. Two sailors set sail on opposite sides of the world, and when they met in the middle, they had two completely different tales to tell. Complementary in nature, their journeys shaped them into who they are, which was a perfect match for each other. I thought, who is this about? I arrived in Guatemala at my favorite lake. I had been to the lake before, but this time was different. I knew where I was going. I wanted to stay in a community located right on the lake. When I got there, the first person I ran into was the man that operated the community. And when I moved in, the first person I met was a shy German boy with long, dark, curly hair by the name of Nick. He was building a sailboat in the backyard. We fell in love. Falling doesn't even really describe it. It was like nothing I had ever experienced before. I remember hearing a voice inside of me say, "This is a love story to end all love stories." And I knew that he was the one. And now, for the first time, I knew that my visions were real. All of my visions were real. And fairies were real too. So when I was shown a vision of us traveling in a van together, I knew that had to be real also. I remember saying, well, if a van just appears for less than $2,000, I'll buy it. The next day, Nick comes home to tell me that our neighbor is selling her van for $1,200. So I bought it. We fixed it up and traveled across Mexico together. We took our time. Although the next vision showed us in LA, I was in no rush to get back. We visited a very old tree who gave me a warning. She said, "Things are going to get very bumpy in the human world. Those who are listening will be fine." I shrugged my shoulders and didn't know what that meant. While traveling across Mexico, we lived on deserted beaches, slept to the waves, and woke up to the birds. Life was simple, but so extraordinary. The beauty I saw in the world continued to multiply and expand. We caught crabs and fish, and cooked over the open fire under the moon, watching the stars above. Time slowed down to a halt, and weeks felt more like months. Then one day we got engaged. I had seen a vision of it, and I couldn't keep it a secret anymore. So I asked him to marry me, and he said yes. Months went by, and we finally made it back to the United States. After traveling for so long, all I wanted to do was make a home and stay in it. However, I was contacted from the other side by my grandfather, who had passed some years back. He told me that it was very important to show Nick all around the city. I didn't know why this was so important, but I listened to his advice. We later found an apartment, and the day after we moved in, the whole world shut down. I suddenly knew why my grandfather had contacted me, and I knew what the message the old tree spirit had said to me meant. Several months went by, and Nick's US visa expired. The offices to get married were closed, and with the world closing its borders, Nick would have to return home to Germany, and we would have to separate again. We said goodbye, and I suddenly knew what it must have felt like for women who said goodbye to their husbands as they went off to war. There was no certainty we'd see each other again, but there was hope. Stay tuned to hear how the rest of our story turns out.